I'm Jamie S. Rich, and this is Back to the Gutters.
I like to use these Pentel pocket brushes.
Yeah, it's a beautiful book. I use a Winsor Newton Series 7. I love comics, so I was So, we're back in my apartment, and this week I'm interviewing Jamie. So, I'm just going to jump right into it. Jamie. So, I'm not an interviewer, so I'm going to start with your origin story. I've heard rumors about it from many people, but I'd like to hear it from you.
Well, back in the day, like before the internet, like there was no connection. Like you read comics and people made comics out there, and there was no really way to talk to them except in the back of the comics. Can
I interrupt you for a second? When is back in the day?
Like right after they made booze legal again.
How?
Like the 1980s. So in the 1980s, I was reading comics, and letters columns were in the back of every comic book, and so you would write in, and there was actually a community of weirdly enough like pen pal letter writers, and I got to know them. I was super young. I started off like 12 or 13 writing in, and they were all older, and they all thought like, oh, I can influence, like what will Marvel do with Spider-Man? If I give them my opinion, they'll change. And I just wanted to see my name in the back of the comics. And so I started writing letters, and to like Booster Gold was like my first printed letter. Booster Gold number 3, I think. And I was writing to Dinah Schutz every month. And at like 15, so 1987, I went to my first San Diego Comic-Con, walked up to the table at the Kamiko table, and I said, hi, I'm Jamie Rich. And she looked at me, she says, of Quartz Hill, California? And I just like, I couldn't believe it. And that was it. It was like I was somehow part of that community by writing in. I had no idea that Diana Schutz had gone into comics. She used to write to Daredevil and when Frank Miller was drawing it. And that was a whole history that I had no idea. Paul Levitz, Jim Shooter, Len Wein, all these people would write letters to comics. And so that's really what, I just kept going back to San Diego, I kept writing. And when I was in college, Dinah was like, well, let me know when you're getting out and I'll get you a job. And that's how I ended up working at Dark Horse.
So so you lived in California, but you moved to Portland?
I moved to Portland to work for Dark Horse. So I was fresh out of college, so 94. I was about to turn 22, I think it was.
And did you know anybody here?
Just Bob Schreck, Dinah Schutz, and Matt Wagner.
But you didn't know anybody socially?
No.
Like it was all like work stuff?
No, I'd only lived in college dorms at that point. Like I'd only lived at college, because in the summers I would like live with my sister. So during the year I would go to college, and it wasn't that far away, like an hour away in Long Beach, California, and I lived in the dorm. So I packed everything into my Nissan Sentra and I drove up here to work for Dark Horse.
All right, so we're gonna fast forward a little bit. So yeah, you're in Portland. You've been working for years and years and years. You edited, then you moved on to Oni from there?
Yeah, I worked at Dark Horse for 4 years, and I kind of worked my way up to associate editor, I think. And I was kind of unhappy. I had been working on my novel, Cut My Hair, since college, and hadn't finished it. I'd finished it somewhere in there, I forget where, but I had, like, that draft just sat there. So Bob Schreck and Joe Nosemack were forming Oni, and while they were doing that, because I was Bob Schreck's assistant at Dark Horse when he quit, and he went to go form Oni shortly after that, and so I was always involved in these weird little meetings, and was always supposed to be like the first employee at Oni Press. So it was, I think they had published just a couple of comics when they finally hired me, and I moved over in June of '98. About like almost exactly 4 years from coming up to Portland to be at Dark Horse to move over to Oni Press and be an editor there. And then shortly after, I think about a year later, Schreck left to go to DC and I became editor-in-chief.
So you did that for a while, but then you decided to quit editing altogether and then write on your own?
I think like the first year, I left Oni in 2004. And I didn't go to that San Diego because I left like that June. Like everything happened like in June. So I came up here in June of 92, left and went to Oni in June of 98, left Oni in June of 2004. And I didn't go to San Diego that year, and that was the year, I think it was Jay Torres made buttons. There was I Am the Reason, Jamie Rich Quit, and you're the reason Jamie Rich quit. And those buttons were going around. Because I couldn't go. There was no way I could go to Comic-Con that year because all I would do is spend that time answering questions of like, well, why did you leave?
But ultimately, you were the reason.
Yes, I was absolutely the reason that I quit. I was just not. I needed to be writing, and so. The year I went back, I think was the next year or so, and B. Claymore looked at me and he was like, I didn't even know you knew how to smile, because I was that unhappy. And that grouchy, and I just wasn't doing the job well anymore. And so I immediately had cut my hair, had been published, and I left. Actually, I had two things I had to do. I left. They had already approved 12 Reasons Why I Love Her, and I was going to write The Everlasting. Those were my first two goals, and I spent the next year doing that.
Right. Well, and so you've been writing for how many years now since you got...
It's about 10 years, yeah. It's just over 10 years since I left. So, 2004.
Okay, yeah. Why do you think that you work with so many women?
I think a lot of the guys I would run into, their interest in comics was based on their reading comics when they grew up. And so they wanted to do a very specific kind of thing that recreated that experience. And I wanted to do something that was very much more personal. And I kind of think that's what happened to it. Because I feel like that's what started as an editor. Because that's the story, like China Clugston or Christine Norrie or Jen Van Meter, that's what they were bringing to me. And that's why I would gravitate to them as an editor and be like, I want to publish your comics, is they were bringing something that was very personal and very different than what I was reading elsewhere and what I really wanted to read. And so I don't know if that's why then, as a writer, I've gravitated and found more women who have been my collaborators. It's not like something I intentionally have done. It just kind of happens that way.
So I'm curious then, how do you pick projects?
So it depends. With different collaborators, I'm actually enjoying that aspect of like they give me either the moment of like, you need to do something for me now, or in the case of Madame Frankenstein or Ladykiller, where you guys come to me and you say, here's an idea I have, do you want to help me flesh this out? Do you want to work with me? And actually Ladykiller, I think, was the first for that. And it's been a learning curve of learning to embrace that idea and how great that is to have that first initial thing lifted off of you and being handed this thing, like, here's a great idea. Do you want to collaborate? And do you want to work on this thing? And I'm finding that's actually working out really well for me, I think. Hopefully you think so.
We'll see.
Yeah, I'm doing my best.
I don't know. It depends. The book's not out yet. We'll find out.
Yeah, so that's kind of comes down to, but it often really is just like, I can't get this thing out of my head. And even within working on a specific project, that's how sometimes the writing happens. Like, I just got to get it to stop. It is almost, it's pretentious and weird, but it's almost like an insanity of like, I can't stop obsessing about this thing and going over and over and over, because I'm scared I'm going to forget it as part of it too. Right. And so I got to sit down and make it come out somehow.
But do you ever like when you're out and about, like say you're walking or riding the streetcar or anything, do you like write it in your notes app on your phone, or do you write it down in notes?
Sometimes on my phone, but unfortunately it really works the times I can't. Jogging solved tons of problems. I always actually describe, and sometimes for me running is like playing Tetris, but with plot. To where I'm running and I see all these things and they start to fall into place, and then I'm like, oh God, I got it, and I gotta go back. Or the shower. There's like the You Have Killed Me pages I always talk about, the one where Mercer sees the girl across the racetrack. That was a shower thing where I had to jump out of the shower and actually like sketch it out.
Yeah, I really like that scene.
And that's it. So that's it. It's, I forget the name of the book and the author, but there was that book on creativity we read, and it's probably fine that I forgot, because
it's called Imagine.
Imagine, yeah, the guy that got discredited for making up all the Bob Dylan quotes. Right. But he talks about that, and Aaron Sorkin's one that's like, he's like, I take like 4 showers a day. It's that thing you do to not think about your problem. Sure. Because if you sit at your computer and you're staring at it and you're like, I have to do this here, I have to get from point A to point B, it's never going to happen. It's the thing that you do that makes you think about something else, that makes your brain work it all the way around.
Yeah. Okay, well, tell me a little bit more about your process. So what? Like, I'm curious. Like, as a normal writer, Now, I wear two hats on my job. And I go into a studio, but you work in your apartment. So what, you wake up, you have coffee?
So most of my mornings is usually like email, bills, whatever, social media, like whatever sort of like shit you got to get through. And then it's depending on where the day is going to go. And this is assuming it's a day where I don't have a movie screening. It'd be like a shower.
Because you're a movie reviewer.
Movie reviewer as well. So that sometimes can shake up a whole day. But I'll either shower or often like do my hour in the gym or running. And then when I'm done with that and I've showered, that's when I'll sit down and I'll do like my real work.
Yeah.
Which can go from 2 to 4 hours of like solid writing. And that's often like using an internet blocker amount of time where I'm just like, this is what I have to do. And that's where I have like a goal. It's either, if it's prose, it's going to be a word count. It's like a good day is, my average day is about 2,000 words. If I can hit a really good day, it's about 3,000 words.
Okay.
And then if it's a script, it's about like an issue. I can do an issue in like 4 or 5 hours if I have an outline. If I'm just making it up to go.
That's terrible for me to hear.
Yeah, but I've also been doing it forever.
That's true.
And that's if I'm working on the issue as opposed to working on an outline or a proposal or the planning. The planning can be really long. I'm a front end writer.
What does that mean?
I do a lot of thinking and a lot of planning before I sit down and do it.
Oh, okay.
And so once I sit down and do it, like a lot of the hard work's done and I'm going for it. There's a lot of writers who really love rewriting. I hate it. I can't stand rewriting. I'm no good at it. Like, I'm doing all my rewriting before I actually do the writing. And I unfortunately, I don't actually know that many people who are like that. I feel like creative writing teachers drum the rewriting thing into you. And I'm really like, I'm not going to start until I'm ready to go.
Do you think, as a former editor, now writer, what is the relationship like for you and editors now as a writer?
I assume it can be difficult at times.
You can be difficult, or they can be difficult?
It can be difficult, the relationship.
Right.
No, because there are elements of, like, I have certain expectations. Like, I know what their job is. And so I have certain expectations about what I want them to do and where I don't want them encroaching on my job. I don't actually think that I'm that difficult to work with. I think I'm actually pretty easy to work with from an editorial standpoint. And I like an editor that meets me, I guess, on equal ground. And that they know what they're supposed to do, they know what I'm supposed to do, and we're meeting there to do it together. Right.
So, we're working on Ladykiller now. And the roles are sort of reversed. And now I'm sort of writing most of it, and you're coming in after I write the full script. So how is it for you?
There were some adjustments over that period, and I mean, there were definitely some teachable moments for me and some regrettable moments for my own behavior. Like, I really regret at different times not expressing myself in good ways, ironically enough, as a writer, because I felt when our roles shifted and you took over more, it just kind of happened.
Sure.
And so I always talk about, like, because people think that we actually have this far more contentious relationship than we have. And I feel
don't ruin it.
Yeah, but I feel like we've really not fought that much ever.
No, we haven't. A question now is I want to talk to you is, where do you see your future going? Do you have a plan? Is there like some grand scheme, some big nugget that you want to get to?
No, I guess starting off it was the novels. And getting through all the, like, Have You Seen the Horizon Lately? It was kind of like this point where I thought, oh God, I'm out. I'm done with the stories. I don't know what else to do. And luckily by then I had other ones. And so now it's really just sort of like it's always about what's next. I'm really curious I'd like to do something a lot more long form than I've done so far. I'd like to do an ongoing or something with a longer plan as far as a character is concerned, because I like books like Revival and Rachel Rising and these things that carry on for a while and really build this long narrative, and I'd like to try that. But other than that, it's kind of just sort of, I'm open to every day to what the next thing is going to be.
I wanted to get on this thing, so I know on the show you guys, a lot of the time, like to showcase creators and talk about what they do when they're not creating books. Everybody's got like these hidden talents. I saw Ben Dewey play the guitar, and it was fantastic. So, what's your stupid pet trick? What do you do?
Nothing.
What do you mean nothing?
I have not I was like you just set me up for this downfall. Like I have.
It's not a downfall. You
no, I got
something.
nothing. I'm all like.
You do laundry really good. You like.
No, all I do is like consume pop culture really well.
Well, you love film.
I love film.
I know that.
I read lots of comics. I don't read as many books as I should, but yeah, I mean, this might be my Achilles heel. Is like I don't really have any other talents. I don't have any outside skills.
You are a dancer.
I like to dance.
You are a wedding DJ from time to time for friends.
I'm a terrible though actual dancer. I'm a dancer.
And you should embrace it.
I'm a dancer.
That's right. And you should embrace it and be proud.
It's true. I'm a dancer. What did you guys do?
No. Why don't you put the wine on the ground?
I'm like, if I hold it, I'm going to drink it.
It appears.
Oh my God. You're ridiculous. Oh my God. You love the fake cakes. Everybody loves the fake cakes.
Everybody's full of crap. I'm not full of crap.
Oh, really?
I'm honestly.
You're full of shit. It's Wine Wednesday.
We want to say
I like you drawing trumpets. I don't know why.
Ew. Why don't we go to your place and see what you do all day? Why don't we go to your place and we see how you make the magic? So, why do you think that you work with so many women?
Boobs. No.
I think it'd be really interesting to bring up in an interview about you, because I'm bored hearing you talk about the business.
So yeah, that's been the fascinating thing. So you've taught me something as a writer though now, and you're writing Ladykiller.
Yeah, thank me for my time.
I think I've heard all I need to hear.
You don't have any questions for me?
I just went blank for a second.
Jeez.
Do you love big butts or are you gonna lie?
I'm not gonna lie.
This
My heart's beating really fast and I'm sweating.
I know. It's a great job, isn't it?
I don't like it. Cut.
And with that, folks, I think we've all had enough to drink.